Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start on time so we can end on time or earlier. It's always fun to do that. I'm Amy Henderson. I'm Director of Marketing and Communications at the Jacksonville Public Education Fund. We appreciate you all so much for being here tonight. This is an important issue for our community. And so I want to welcome everybody here in the room, and please enjoy some food and beverages while we talk, but we are going to be talking tonight. And to the folks online, thank you so much for taking time out to be here as well. To lead us in this conversation tonight is our JPEF board member, David Voss. And David, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and just take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Well, I am a JPEF board member and a communications consultant, retired recently, but I have been through a number of these issues. And the one thing we know for sure is that on November 3rd, we're going to be asking voters to approve or disapprove a 1 mil property tax to support public schools. That's the one thing we know for sure, right? Everything else is going to be open for discussion tonight. We want to answer all your questions. We actually want to ask you questions. And for those on Zoom, you're going to have the opportunity to submit your questions so that we can get our panel of experts to answer them as well. That's kind of the way things are going to flow. If we can go to the next slide, just a quick overview of the flow of today. The slide with the agenda, Milan. There we go. So basically, we're just trying to inform voters. The objective isn't necessarily to sway, it's just to inform. And I think the host of this event needs to come up, Rachel Fortune, the president and CEO of the Jacksonville Public Education Fund. And Rachel, how is supporting the 1 mil referendum and hosting events like this consistent with the JPEF mission?
Thank you, David. And let me echo my thanks to you all so much for being here. This is a critically important community issue, and we want to make sure that everyone understands this issue before we go out to vote on November 3rd. As many of you may know, and for anyone who is not familiar with JPEF, we are a very data-driven organization, and the data on this issue are clear. You know, research shows that one of the key reasons that teachers leave the classroom is low pay. It's also why fewer and fewer people are attracted to becoming teachers in the first place. And so we really want to make sure that as we elevate the importance of this issue to the community, people are understanding how essential teachers are to the success of our young people. So why is this issue important to JPEF? This issue is important to JPEF because teachers matter. They are critically important to the success of our students and therefore the success of our community. At JPEF, we are very focused. Our mission is centered on ensuring that every child is able to receive the support they need to not only thrive in school, but to thrive beyond their K-12 schooling and go on to succeed in college, career, and life ultimately. And in order for us to be the Jacksonville we aspire to be, we have to make sure that we keep public education at the forefront, and that we ensure that the people in our classrooms who have the biggest impact on our students receive the support and the investment they need to remain in the classroom. I had a conversation earlier today with Melanie Lawson talking about how important this issue is, and what we really hope the community understands as the next couple of months play out is that in order for us to continue to move our community forward, we must make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that teachers are the factor within our schools that has the biggest impact on student achievement. And so thank you all again for being here. I look forward to this opportunity to hear from Dr. Bernier, as well as our esteemed panelists. And thank you, David, for your leadership and support on the JPEF board.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for hosting. It's quite the endeavor. I mean, there's technology, there's hosting, and there's communication. And so it really is quite an endeavor. And as I mentioned, we want to start with knowing who you are. So now we can go to the slide with the questions about our audience. Those of you who are here live, if you don't mind, take out your phone and go to the QR code and answer those questions. Those of you on Zoom, you can do this as well. Please fill this out. We want to learn a little bit more about who's with us here today. I love these instant results. We have a lot of concerned community members, Dr. Bernier. There's a good number of people here, not only people who are educators and supporters, but also people who can help us communicate the answers to the questions that we have today. All right, very good perspective. A couple more coming in. 11% staff, educators 21. Very good. All right. So I think the first thing we need to do is get the overview. Why are we doing this? What's the benefits? And there's no better person to take us through that than your superintendent, Dr. Christopher Bernier.
Thank you, David. I don't have a driver, so you're going to hear me say next slide a lot. Next slide. I really want to take the opportunity to say, first of all, thank you to JPEF. Thank you to the other individuals who helped host this. To the people online, thank you for tuning in. It's a really important issue moving forward in November, and very excited about the opportunity. Next slide, please. I think Rachel said it beautifully, but I'll say it again. After effective parenting, the #1 issue for student achievement is the classroom teacher. Teaching is a very collegial profession, but it is also one in which it's very isolating. They learned that Monday when they closed the door and 25 or 18 beautiful faces looked at them, and they realized they were the sage on the stage and they were the one in charge. We've received and done very well as a school system, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Back in 2022, teacher vacancies had dramatically increased. We had gone from 142 in 18 to 466. And part of that reason was teachers were communicating, it was about pay, it was about benefits, it was about other reasons. And that's why, next slide please, that's why our board and this community asked in 2022 for a 1 mil. The 1 mil is specifically the only tax that a school board can ask to be levied on their own. Everything else in the way education is financed through the FEFP formula, meaning all of our other millage is determined by the state legislature. This is the only way we can ask for additional income in order to address some of the needs that we have in Duval County. And not only will we show you tonight what you asked for, what was asked for and how the community delivered, but we'll take the opportunity to show some of the results as well. Next slide, please. So our teachers are the priority. Of the 7,000 plus teachers, they've been rewarded about an average of $8,668 is put in their paycheck. This is groceries. This is mortgage payments. This is gasoline to get to work. This is clothes for children. They have grown, and rightfully so, accustomed to this money, because what it does is tell them they are a priority. If you think back to the first slide, if they are truly the #1 reason for, other than parental involvement, for how our students achieve, then they deserve to be recognized for that. Next slide, please. And here's what happened since 2022. The teacher retention rate rose from 87 to 91%. The vacancy rate dropped from 6.5 to 4.4. Last year, we opened the doors with about just short of 250 vacancies. This year, we opened with just around 200. Last year, though, we doubled down. And I think it's important to see that even though the numbers went down, I think it's important for the community to know that last year, with the leadership of the board and the superintendent, we reinvested in class size. We made sure that we funded our schools at the level and gave them the number of positions necessary to meet the constitutional amendment that was passed a number of years ago. So not only are we have less vacancies, we've increased the number of positions, and we've been able to remain competitive in what is a very competitive market. Next slide, please. And boy, have they delivered. The last 2 years have been amazing. 24, 25, we got our first A-rated system ever in the history of Duval. We should all be very proud of that, and we should thank our teachers, our administrators, and everybody every single day for the work that they do. We've moved to 98% of our schools being A, B, or C rated. Our grad rate is at an all-time high at 97.6, and the demographic breakdown between demographic groups has never been smaller. So while other districts may be doing slightly better than us in certain categories, when you look at our demographic data, we're making sure that the A means all students are achieving. Next slide, please. I won't go through all of these, but other than teacher salary, the millage was meant to directly address enhancement in the arts. Band uniforms, upgraded sound systems, upgraded auditoriums, teachers receiving new instruments, tools, and equipment in order to make the arts come alive in all of our schools. Next slide, please. We also improved playgrounds and athletic facilities as we promised. When elementary playgrounds sometimes were aged in decades. They were 20, 30, 40 years old. Our high schools have to now have turf fields, and we're moving in this direction each and every day. We've got beach volleyball courts, and we've been able to address some Title IX issues between men and women's sports by the use of this millage. Next slide, please. So every dollar had a purpose. Every dollar had a reason, and some of the stats like teacher retention rate, recruitment, those numbers being down proportionally or up proportionally based upon how they're measured. But 88% of the money that's been raised by this millage has gone to teachers. It values them. It tells them that they're important. It reminds them each and every day that they're of value in the outcomes of this amazing school district. Next slide, please. But what does this mean surrounding us? We're the dark blue, beautiful Duval County up at the top of the corner. We are surrounded by light blue. The light blue are all the other districts who already have this millage. Imagine a time if this millage was not successful. How would we continue to compete regionally to get educators into our classrooms? What would that mean to retention and recruitment rates? So this is a pretty vital competitive market for teachers, with nationally education institutions diminishing in the number of student enrolled. So we have a huge battle going on for talent, and we need to put ourselves in the best place in order to be able to continue to recruit that talent. Next slide, please. At the foresight of a board and of this community, they made sure that there was independent oversight over this money. They have an independent audit advisory committee that looks at every dollar, how it's spent, where it goes. I think that's incredibly important because this is in addition to the annual state audits that the district has to go through with the Auditor General and other individuals. These are accounting and financial professionals, and they do hold us accountable each and every month as they work through their independent oversight of how we spend and work with this money. Last slide. So in closing, this millage is about teachers. It's for teachers. It's for our students. And really, it's about being for Duval. It's really about, if you want to continue to see the school district achieve at this level, we have to invest in the level where the most impact is made. And that's with our teachers. I'll leave it there and hand it back to David.
Does anyone here in the room have a question for Dr. Bernier? Yes.
If I remember correctly, the last time we voted on this, it said it was for teachers and for arts and athletics. And this time it seems like it's adding for operating expenses. And if my memory is correct. No.
Can you repeat what type of other expenses? I didn't catch the word. It could have been the microphone.
Was added operating expense?
No, there are no operating expenses attached to this. It is teachers, arts, and athletics.
Well, back to the athletic facilities you talked about. Just before this, a couple years earlier, we passed a half penny for facilities. Why can't that money be used for this?
Because they're two very distinct and very different categoricals. The money comes in specifically from the millage to be able to be spent on these three areas. The half penny sales tax specifically speaks to new construction or deferred maintenance. For those of you who have been in school for the first 2 weeks so far, we've had a number of places where our air conditionings have been not exactly functioning at the high level. That's a result of deferred maintenance. We've been deferring that spend, and now with the half penny, we have the money to spend to fix those things. With the millage, we have the ability to take care of our
The bottom line,
teachers.
you can't use half penny to pay teachers.
Two separate categories. Yes, sir.
I'm going to call up one of your school board members, if that's all right with you. Melody Bulldog is a school board member in her first term. Is that right? And here is your microphone, Melody. Now, I understand you are pretty much known and ran on a very conservative ticket. You have conservative values, conservative as an elected official, and somehow you came around to supporting this tax. Can you take us through that story and that process that you went through?
Of course, thank you. Well, you know, our budget's a pretty complicated animal. So it's not something that you just walk in and you look at it and go, oh, there's where we're wasting money. And so, you know, you have these ideas, and I was a teacher in the system, I was a parent in the system, and of course I looked at it and I went, there are so many, excuse me for saying this, but I'm doing it from the teacher perspective. There's so many people working in the ivory tower making so much money. And, you know, you look and see who are those actual positions. What are they actually doing? What is the value they add? And there aren't as many of them as some people might think. And these people that have the six-figure salaries, they don't go to sleep. I'm telling you, because they answer emails at 2 a.m. They answer Sunday nights. I think some people in this room have probably received emails, responses from many of our cabinet members. They work hard and they make great decisions and come up with great ideas to make this district work. And they are the heart of the district. And Dr. Bernier works them really hard. And, you know, they've admitted it's the hardest I've ever worked, but I love this job. And so, you know, when I look at what's going on and I walk through the district office, I tell people all the time, those desks are not full. There are many empty desks in the district office because the last 2 years, this superintendent has made extremely difficult decisions to let go many of the employees. When you go and walk through, you're going to talk to other employees who say, I'm doing the work of 3 people that 3 people used to do. So they're never bored. They're never sitting there twiddling their thumbs. So, you know, I have a hard time. I've had a hard time finding waste. And so that is why when I look at it and I go, okay, there are some areas that we can look at. I'm committed. Some people are saying no more taxes, no more money until there's a forensic audit. I am down with the forensic audit. I'm fine with that. Please hold us accountable. Help us point to the waste if you can find it. But for me, I've asked lots of questions. I've had lots of meetings. I've sat down with our CFO. I spent about 2 hours with him yesterday, again, just going through where can we find it. So when I look, here's some areas I'd like to look. I'm looking at contracts. I'm looking at debt service. These kinds of things I think we could look at, but that doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick thing. It's a shift. If you move from even contract services, you know, there's a lot of work to be done to bring things in-house. And even then you may or may not be saving money. So we don't have the money as it is to make up for the amount of money we would need.
So you had to come to the conclusion that without the mill, you couldn't give the teachers the salaries to be competitive.
There's no way we could have done it.
I've heard different percentages on the percentage of administrative costs overall versus, you know, direct services to students. I don't know if Dr. Pierce, you have that figure or something, 6 to 8% or something like that, the percent of administration. And so even if you cut administration, it wouldn't be enough to really give the teachers the salary increase they need.
No, I think it's important to follow what Ms. Bolduc said. Over the last 2 years, we've cut 12% a year at the central level. And no, if you removed all the administrators, it wouldn't add up to the number of money, the amount of dollars we need in order to meet the salary expectations of our teachers.
Common misconception. Other questions from the room now? Any other questions from Zoom? You are welcome to submit your questions now through Zoom to our panelists as we go along here. Anyone have a question here in the room? Please come up. We have to get in front of the camera. Yes. And what's your name?
I'm Callum Brown. I wanted to ask, I saw on the pie chart the 88%, that part of that also goes to police. Is that true?
Does part of it go to police?
Yes. Before I even arrived, there was always a slice of that pie as educators and our police force. I think Maslow's finally won out. You're right. You can't expect kids to learn unless they feel safe, and they can't, and vice versa. And our teachers need to feel the same way as well. So yes, our police officers do receive a portion of those dollars as a bonus.
Is there any concern that if the property tax amendment passes, we know it's not to affect schools, but it could affect things like resource officers? Would then more of the money from the millage go towards police?
Actually, the way the current, and there'll be a new, I understand there'll be new ballot language for that particular issue, potentially even as early as tomorrow. Schools are held harmless. Our funding will continue to approach the same levels that it's approached in the past when it comes to the state FEFP model. That's how our police officers are paid. So no, the short answer to your question is no. If the community chooses on another tax referendum to go in a different direction, then our police officers would still receive the money from the FEFP formula to be paid. So the bonuses would not change. They would not impact our teachers.
Thank you. I think I've got a question that a lot of people are asking, just watching social media and what's been going on out there in the communities with the constitutional amendment to dramatically decrease property taxes and what impact that has. There's a lot of noise about, we don't need this much money anymore. We don't need this property taxes. Now, education was excluded from the constitutional amendment as it's written now, but there is confusion. Can you somehow lessen the confusion about the property tax constitutional amendment that's on the same ballot as your 1 mil renewal?
I can do my very best. The 1 mil that we have is a renewal of a tax. I think it's important for the community to understand that it is not a new tax. It's a tax we're already paying, and on a $300,000 home with a homestead as it currently exists, it's about $23 a month. You know, I don't know if anybody goes to Starbucks. I don't, but I'm told Starbucks is pretty expensive. You don't have to buy a few large black lattes until you've spent $23. The other aspect of the other referendum, I'm not an expert on, but clearly the way it's been carved out in our community, the way education is funded through those property taxes will not change. But I think the community needs to be paying very close attention because services could change. If the city has less money, our before and after school programs are really run through the city's budget. They're run through an organization called Kids Hope Alliance, or KHA. If the city gets less money, they may have to make some changes into before and after school programs. So while we'll get the money to run our system, some of what our community has been getting used to as ancillary services, they may not have or may have to turn to a fee base.
And to be clear, that one point you made about the cost, $300,000 home, $25,000 exemption means about $23 a month is what this mill cost, and they're currently paying it, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Impact on teachers. What does this mill have to do with the impact on teachers personally, professionally, financially? And what might it mean to a teacher if it doesn't pass?
So I'm going to tell you that I showed up at all of my District 7 schools at the faculty meetings. I made 9 out of 10 faculty meetings. The other one, they were in orientation, but I got to address each of my my groups of faculty. And the first thing I said was, thank you for coming back, because they don't have to. They can make other choices. There are other things that you can do with an education degree. And while I can argue that teaching is the most rewarding career, I know it personally. I've done it for 26 years. I love it. There are a lot of things I'm willing to do without in order to teach. However, when you can't support your own household and your own children, but we're asking you to take care of everybody else's, when you are working the job that never ends and you go home to another job that never ends. And I told my teachers too, you know, when I was standing there in front of all of them, my husband used to, when I was a young mom and I was tired, I'd come home and I'd see the house was a mess, but I had left it perfectly, of course, you know, because I was a perfect housekeeper. But I would get home and I'd be so frustrated. And the next morning I'd leave and he'd know I was tired from the day before and he'd say, please come back.
Specifically from a financial standpoint, what impact does this have? if it doesn't pass?
$8,600.
So that literally would probably go away. Yeah.
It's the difference between our teachers being able to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And even with this, many of our teachers who testified so beautifully at City Hall, right? They have second jobs. They're not just working during the day and then going home. They're working during the day and then they're moving into a retail position, or they're working the weekend. You know, we've got to figure out in the state where we can appropriately pay our educators to meet the economic situation that they're currently facing in Northeast Florida. This renewal of this millage helps, but there's still work to be done with state and local government to continue to press.
Teachers in the audience, impact, come on down. So we just heard about the $8,600 average supplement for teachers. Tell us who you are, where you teach, and what impact this might have on you.
On the spot. I'm Cammie Gavigan. I'm also David's daughter. So this is why on the spot. But that's okay. Yes, I'm here for free. I teach at Kernan Trail Elementary, and this is my 20th year. I teach CSS, so communication social skills for 1st and 2nd grade. And the impact that it's had is not only personally, but just within the school is the retention. I'm in a hard to fill position. And not only has this money impacted teachers, but also office staff, paraprofessionals. I couldn't do my job without my paraprofessionals. My paras are my right hand and my left hand and everything in between. And it's impacted their increase in being able to hire some paras, and as well as personally. And like Dr. B said, it's my summer pay. So I don't have to work, because who's going to hire someone for 8 weeks? Yeah, you could do camp or extended day or whatever, but it doesn't add up. It doesn't, it's not the same. So it's important.
If a teacher loses $8,600 and St. John's or Clay County offers you $10,000 more, it's got to be pretty tempting. And have you actually seen improved retention in your experience?
Absolutely. There has been improved retention with myself and colleagues of mine, friends of mine, just being able to make a decision. And when you have to make that, when I had to make that decision, it was right before this referendum in 2021, going into 2022, unsure if I wanted to stay in teaching, needed a change. And I made that change not only to Kernan Trail and transferred, but as well as the referendum coming up. We had bills to pay. My husband was in treatment, and I made the decision that I can stay. This referendum is going to help us, and it was that impactful.
That's it directly from the teacher. I also really want to hear now from the community. And there is a difference between the district and what's called a political action committee. Political action committee makes those signs you see in the yards. And I want to call up one of the co-chairs, Sherry McGill. Come on up. And Sherry is helping with the political action committee. And I want to get not just the teacher perspective, the superintendent's perspective, but also the community. And specifically, Sherry, what's in it for people who don't have kids in school, or a business person, or that broader community perspective? Why would they pay for it if they don't even have kids in school?
So I don't have kids in school. I don't have grandkids in school. I don't have any direct relationship with Duval County Public Schools. I am an aging baby boomer, and I'm a product of Alabama Public Schools. So I would say multiple things. You like your Social Security check? Well, you better have a well-educated generation or two behind you. You know, you want to be selfish about it? That's just the reality. I grew up at a time, I was 5 years old when the former Soviet Union sent the Sputnik into space. Those of you who are a lot younger than my generation, that probably doesn't mean anything. But what happened was an entire country realized that education is our best defense. Education is our best defense. An educated citizenry is our best defense. Somewhere along the way, we lost that understanding, and I think we've let that particular value structure slip away. Why that happened, we can probably debate, is simply, I think, an accurate understanding of where we find ourselves. So now it's my kid, and it's not my responsibility to take care of your kid. Well, you will not have a healthy community. You will not be living in a place where you want to live. We will all be armed and everyone will look like a stranger and the enemy. So the whole notion of community strikes me is centered around the whole notion of the next generation and the generation after that, and what kind of investment we are willing to make into those people. And the primary investment, Rachel said it, the classroom teacher has the greatest effect on a child's life. That's not to discount the family, but let's face it, these kids are in school all day long. So I think, I can make the selfish argument. It's in my best interest financially and my well-being as I age that people 50 years younger than me, 60 years younger than me, 70 years younger than me are well educated.
Thank you, Sherry. Dr. Bernier, if you could hand your mic to our next guest. I think it's somebody everybody knows. This is Warren Jones, everybody. Come on down, Warren. Sherry, Miss Miguel, you sit right up here. You might get another question. You never know. Zoomers, please bring in your questions. So how long were you on the school board, Mr. Jones?
8 years.
8 years.
Thank you.
And before that, the city council?
I'm not going to tell you.
All right.
28 years old.
Let's just say you have some history.
Okay,
And I want you to give us that history. What led us to this moment? What is it about this greatest need right now for this particular issue from a historical standpoint? You lived through each of those decisions. Take us through that a little bit.
Well, one of the interesting things that happened to me before I got on the school board is my youngest son was going through my James Weldon Johnson junior high school yearbook. And he said, Dad, that school hasn't changed much since you were there. And that was 20-some years later. And it dawned on me how important education is. I think we all can remember that teacher who made a real difference in our lives. And somehow we've lost that connection, and we have somehow devalued the worth that a teacher brings to a classroom, to a person's life and their growth and development. And I think when you look at the number of individuals going into public education today at the college level, that number is declining. Mm-hmm. So how do we attract and keep high-performing, qualified teachers in the classroom? And I think this one meal will be a step in that direction. Without it, we know that our numbers will drop, that we have counties around us that we can easily go to. Some people live in Clay County. So I might as well teach here. I can make a little bit more at St. John's and Nassau. So it's a very competitive environment we're in today. And because of that environment, we have to be able to compete. I think the one meal, the continuation of the one meal puts us in a better position to keep our position as the A school district for 2 years in a row.
Very good. Now that you've been term limited on the school board, you've taken this role now on with the Political Action Committee. Tell us, make sure we understand the difference between the district's role and the PAC and what you're trying to achieve with the Political Action Committee running that side of the campaign.
The Political Action Committee, very good question. Our job is to raise money, to make sure that that message is out there that we need this 1 meal increase, continuation, I'm sorry, and that without it, our teachers will lose a good chunk of their income. Our job is to provide that campaign. I still have my Say Yes t-shirt from 4 years ago, and I will pull it out and make sure we get more of those for this year's campaign. But November is important, and we have to distinguish, make sure people understand that the 1 meal is a continuation, and don't confuse it with the Amendment 3 that people are against. We are for this amendment, and it's going to take all of us, because the people who are listening, the people who are here, they know what's going on. They support it. Our job is to sell it to the rest of the community who may not be in tune to what's going on in public education, may not be aware of this issue, even be on the ballot come November 3rd. Of this year.
Given that this is probably an audience that generally supports it, what do you suggest they do, and what kind of help do you need?
We need everyone to chip in, make a donation, pick up a yard sign, spread the word that we need this 1 meal.
And you got the website right up there.
And there's a QR code. We need your support. Just like 4 years ago, we need the momentum the community behind. The teachers are going to be with us. They have a vested interest, but we got to make sure that those people who don't have kids in the public school system have a vested interest in why this one meal is important to continue.
One last question for you before you sit down, and maybe Dr. Bernard. Did you ever receive a raise when the millage was passed before?
No, they didn't. I mean, they excluded the board members. And
Okay, I just want to make that clear. Dr. Bernier, no? No money. Okay, all right. Hey, we got our first question from the Zoomers. All right, here we go. And please bring in more. And if there's any questions here, just raise your hand and I'm coming to you. What part of the 1 mil is going to private schools? And when you answer that, also, if you could let him have the microphone there, the charter school division as well. So private schools, charter schools, is there, this specific question is what part it's going to private schools?
Well, specifically to private schools, none.
None.
So there's no money that goes to, but we also have public charter schools, and they do get a fair share based upon the state law, and that is approximately 20% of what the entire millage collects.
And they are public schools, charter schools. Sometimes there's
Public
confusion.
schools, they're just governed by different independent school boards.
Right, right. Very good. All right. Other questions from the live audience here? Amy, do we have any others from the Zoom? Okay, bring it on. Oh, okay. Stand up.
Yeah. This is not my question necessarily, but I was just talking to Ms. Aker about the question she asked earlier about the operating piece. A part of the language that is framing the issue is operating expenses, including teacher compensation, et cetera. So I was just wondering if you guys could explain why that language might be that way in terms of what those components are and how they connect to operating expenses.
They don't connect to operating expenses other than the fact that teacher salaries, police salaries, our maintenance projects related to new playgrounds and athletic fields would come from the operating budget. So it is not anything that would move towards what transportation or food service. This is specifically around the operating costs around teacher salaries as well as the arts and athletics.
So it is within operating expenses, but it's not an additional money for beyond the salaries and the things you pointed out with athletics and the arts.
That is correct, sir.
Another question from Zoom. If the referendum does not pass, exactly how much money would DCPS lose annually, and what specific programs or positions would be affected?
It would impact every one of our teachers, every one of our police officers, most of our employees. The number ranges right around to $76 million. That is not money currently within the operating budget that we could pull or find or draw back in. Well, the millage is extremely important to continuing to keep us competitive regionally. I think people have said it really well. I think public schools, if they do their work really well, do two great things. They turn out amazing graduates, both college and career ready, who can go off into their world either 4 years later and come back to our community or walk across a graduation stage and begin to become viable members of this community. When we have a great school system like we're building and have continued to build long before I got here, but we have now reached some of the pinnacles of what a school system could do, we still have work to be done. But the second thing we do is when you have a great working community and graduates that are capable, then industry and other people want to locate here, which raises the whole level of economic growth for our city and our community. And that's why I think I wanted to just appreciate what you said about the importance of a public education. It really is a game changer for the community in terms of lawyers, doctors, plumbers, caregivers. We're going to rely on the children in kindergarten and second grade right now to be our next mayor, our next school board member. And I do, if I can just really briefly,
Sure.
We have some really amazing school board members in the group. Mr. Ricardo is here, Mr. Blunt is here, Cindy Pearson is here. Daryl Willie came in, he's here as well with his family. I just want to recognize them because it's the leadership of the whole group that's allowing us to continue to try to do this great work on behalf of our teachers.
We have a statement from probably a retired teacher or former teacher just saying, I wish this was around to support teacher salaries. When I was in the classroom, my primary reason for leaving the classroom was due to salary to support my family. So a statement from our Zoom listeners. Please stand up and ask your questions.
Like my question has been answered yet, and I just want to say that I'm very supportive of this. So it sounds like I'm being nitpicky, and I don't mean to downplay this because I think it's very important, and I hope everybody votes yes. But last time we voted on this in 2022, operating expenses wasn't included, and it is included now. And I remember hearing people at the school board meeting that they were worried that the money going to the charter schools didn't go to the teachers. And I was wondering if this language was meant specifically for them so they could spend this money on operating expenses instead of teachers.
And you do understand operating expenses includes teacher salaries, the arts and the athletics. Okay, you want to try it again?
I stick to the same answer I provided. The way the money will be spent in Duval County, of our portion of it will be spent on teacher salaries, the arts and athletics like we have in the past. We are not doing anything different with this money other than continuing to support our educators, our arts programs at that particularly around 88 to 12%, 80 to 20%. What the charters get is what the charters get. And that becomes an independent public school system of which we have no ability to govern.
Either one of the, Mr. Jones or you, how would, well, particularly with your history and now in the future, how will the taxpayers know that it is being spent exactly as Dr. Bernier just said with the Citizens Advisory? Has that worked for you while you were on the board?
Certainly has. We have the Audit Advisory Committee that oversees it to make sure that those dollars are being allocated as advertised in the referendum that's on the ballot in November.
So it's their reports. And you?
And that remains the same. So
Okay.
each board member chooses someone to, who has that expertise, and they scour all of our expenses and they make sure that we're spending it the way that we should be. And we also have an internal board auditor who looks over everything as well. So it's the most audited money that we collect.
So back to your question about operating expenses, you can read the reports that it was spent as you done. You wanted to add?
Yeah, actually, I want to ask the superintendent a question, but it's along these lines. First of all, I spent some time on your website this afternoon. I want to compliment the school board and the administration for the transparency around the mill and all your finances. Easy to understand, lots of information. The city could learn a few things from you all in terms of how it presents its budget to the public. But so here's my question. I was surprised, and as a senior who cares about this issue and has stayed in this community, I was surprised to see what a haircut the school system has taken from the state of Florida over the past decade. And somebody here told me, oh, it actually goes back to 2008 when the economy collapsed. Could you explain that to people? Because I think for seniors particularly who do not have a relationship with the school system, I think they will be shocked to learn how the millage rate has declined in a time of increasing expenses. I mean, nobody can manage a budget that way. So could you explain that?
I certainly will be happy to try to explain it. The millage several years ago in 2008 was extremely higher. This past year, it was just above 3. It's declined by at least 3 to 4 percentage points over the course of time since 2008. And it's not a millage rate that the school board or the superintendent controls. It's a millage rate that's assigned to us by the state legislature. So the state legislature looks at their information regarding our student enrollment, and then they set a millage on our behalf. That's why the 1 mill is the one tax that the school board could levy. And again, this is a renewal of that. It's the only tax that they have the ability to come out and say, we'd like people to try to help support our system and growth. That trend has been downward. So as a tendency as property values rise, the state then adjusts our millage down so that we generate the same dollars, while I guess the best example currently is diesel fuel. When before the crisis occurred, diesel was operating right around $4 a gallon. It is significantly more expensive, and we have 900 buses that transport 30,000 children every day. The millage doesn't have anything to do with that, but that's that idea of rising costs and expenses where our state millage is not keeping up. because we're spending more there, the millage now helps us be able to help, the millage we're talking about tonight helps us be able to support our educators and our children.
I might add
Go ahead.
too, that that's one issue that I think many of the city council members and former elected officials are not aware, that the school board does not set its millage. Several council members who voted against putting it on the ballot were saying, oh, well, why you keep rolling back your millage if you need more revenue?
Right.
Well, we don't control the millage. The legislature.
Legislature does.
Very important.
As we get close to the end, I'd have another question from Zoom, and it's about other counties. Which other counties are doing similar things, and how many in the state have really passed similar referendums?
I can speak directly for what surrounds us. Nassau, Orange, Nassau, Nassau, Clay, and St. John's all have a millage. I can tell you that Orange does as well. I think while there are a number of counties within the state that have a millage, I think the important factor in that question is the surrounding districts. We are surrounded by districts who have this additional mill. They are also paying teacher salaries with it. And if we don't have it, it is very likely that those recruitment and retention rates are going to fall back to those number of vacancies. And we talk about how important a teacher is in a classroom. It's incredibly important that there be a certified educator in the classroom. And every vacancy, while we have amazing substitutes and we love them dearly, they're not the same as having a certified educator in a classroom.
Yes. Any questions from the group in here? Would any board members like to say a word? You good? Way over there. Come on up. Where we can see, you got to have a microphone too. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there in Zoom world that can't hear you. There you go.
Is there any plan right now to prepare for it not passing?
We are looking at all contingencies. It would be inappropriate and inexcusable for a superintendent not to plan for contingencies. The difficult part would be there is not $76 million just sitting around a budget that we could move. We continue to raise teacher salaries since I've been here. The percentage has gone up each year. We're waiting for our union to ratify the new agreement. So we are doing our part, and we're hopeful that over time, as our fund balance grows from what was a critical level when I arrived at almost 3%, now it's at 5%, which is the board minimum. As those numbers continue to rise, we can start investing in our teachers. And hopefully there's a period of time where this isn't as important and as critical as it is right now.
It's a legitimate question, given the fact that in 2022, this passed with 53%. That's not a huge margin, right? And with everything else going on in the world, are we at risk really of that? And maybe again, the PAC can do something to counter the fact that it was only 53%. You've got to either keep that or do better.
Yeah, a word about the PAC. So do go to the PAC, because if you can't donate, you can request a yard sign. And I do think we're going to be particularly challenged, Warren and Mike, about communication because of Amendment 3. So there's a yes, a no, a yes, no. And I just not sure how aware people are going to be about the difference. But I think the PAC has an obligation to try to help educate and particularly help people who can do this, and this notion that it's not an increase. But I want to make one observation that just occurred to me when the superintendent was speaking, and Warren will remember this because I think you were on city council. So when Mayor Alvin Brown appointed the Bill Scheid Committee on Police and Fire Pension, I sat on that task force. Now we go all these years forward, and that committee had tried to explain to city council and the administration that if we push police officers into a 401k retirement system, we were going to lose police officers to the surrounding counties. What happened was Brown's successor made a big deal about moving everybody to 401k. And what does Mayor Deegan say regularly? We increase the salaries of police officers. We got new officers into the Florida retirement system, And we have stopped losing cops to surrounding counties. And what happens here is we don't have a press that keeps the past bad decisions accountable. And this just is reminiscent of that to me, which is we will lose people. We have lost teachers to surrounding counties. They don't even have to move. And that the task force on the pension for the police and firemen predicted that, and it happened. And then she had to try to correct it. And the correction's working.
And if I could add to that, I want to say you can't keep asking people to do more and not make sure that their pay increases with that. We've had 2 A's these last 2 years, and it is because of our teachers who are in our classrooms and the staff that support them. And so when we watch that work happen and we don't give credit where credit is due and we don't show appreciation, I love that we had a teacher who said, you can appreciate us more, pay us. And so, it's one of those things where if we don't do it, they're going to go find something else to do. We will not attract young people to this field. We've already seen a huge reduction. People are not going to the College of Education. So nobody thought we were going to be rolling in the dough. No one thought we were going to be, getting 6-figure salaries, but we sure thought we'd be able to support ourselves. And so I think those are things that we need to be mindful of.
And if I could put on my political consulting reality check, that back to that 53%, during a presidential election year, there's a much larger turnout at the polls. This is a non-presidential election year, which means turnout will be far less. But the no voters show up. So it can sometimes just depend on turnout and not just whether we got a majority. And that's going to be the challenge to you is the turnout, because that's going to be a reality that we'll have to face. So any other questions or comments from anyone here in the live studio audience or Amy over there on Zoom? Well, then I think it's time to wrap up. So I think we've got another question for you up on the screen. After receiving this information tonight, how comfortable do you feel about voting for the 1 mil in this November, with a 1 representing not comfortable at all and a 5 indicating very comfortable? Then it's a 5.
I guess one question I have for the board members who are here, has every high school in your district received its turf field? And if it hasn't,
Speak right in that microphone, Warren.
If want to know if every high school in your school board district received their turf field, because people forget that it's competitive, and this includes art, music, and PE. Mm-hmm. And so we've been able to replace a lot of the fields with the turf fields to compete with some of the private schools. New band uniforms, new stage equipment. We've done a lot with the 1 mil that we would not have been able to do had it not been for that 1 mil. So keep that in mind.
So I'm seeing the heads nodding up.
The focus is teachers' pay,
yeah,
of course, but we do have that piece in there.
There was a slide earlier, if we could pull it up, on the number of projects, art and physical facility projects that have been done, to Mr. Jones's point, that I think probably it would be useful to put up. There we go. That's a lot of stuff. But again, the total dollars here, even though it's a much smaller percentage, going to these things still can do a lot. Yes, sir. Mr. Darrell Willie, come on down. I knew you couldn't go this whole hour without talking.
No, of course. Hey, everybody online, the Zoomers and everyone. I wanted just to come up because I had the opportunity to sort of chair this piece as we were in 2022. So I want to, number one, thank the voters for what they did and all the families as well. But there's a reason why we're an A school district. Like I keep saying that over and over, there's a reason why. So if we're an A school district, you don't revert back and take things away to change it back to the future. You want to keep us progressing and moving forward. So it's a simple yes for me. Yes, because of the teachers, but also yes, because of all the other pieces that you see every single day. You drive past any of our schools, you probably see this 1 mil working. whether it's a football field, where it's a band practicing in their uniforms, you're seeing a new track. These are things that you're seeing every single day. So I think it's not just something you don't see, because oftentimes people don't realize they vote for something and don't see it. But now we need to point to the things that they see. You see all these teachers working? That's because of the mill. You see this new track, you see these things. So I think we have to point to it. And I just want to say thanks in advance, and thanks to the folks who voted before, because that's momentum as well. Because if we hadn't voted before, we can't move us forward. So thank you to the panelists. Y'all did a fantastic job. And I just wanted to say thanks again. Congrats in advance.
So moving forward to that slide on the results, I think we have confirmed that we have a group of supporters here. Is voting for it enough? So I'm going to bring up another slide, and Amy Henderson to help me out here, because we want to talk a little about just a few more minutes about what you can do. I think sometimes people feel helpless. They don't feel like they have a say, or they can't do anything. Now, if each of you posts something on Facebook, sends out an email, has a conversation with somebody, individually, that's not a big impact. Collectively, it is. Whether it's just reminding people to vote, remember, lower turnout. So a lot of yes voters might just stay home. No, they should not stay home, right? And so these reminders about the things that we can do about just sharing what we learned today, answering questions, particularly educators in the schools may have conversations about it. I remember one educator saying they were going to vote no because they thought the increase in tax was going to be more than the salary they're getting. Just complete misconception, right? So there's a lot of misconceptions out there about this. Now, share it on social media. If you're an educator, share your story, as Ms. Gavigan did today. Share your story with people. Email your contacts. Get a yard sign, as you said, and donate. Donate to the Political Action Committee that's going to be running those campaigns. They got to pay for those yard signs, do the ads, and educate the community, and of course, bring those yes voters out. So with that, Ms. Fortune, you may close.
Thank you so much. Please appreciate our panelists for sharing their insights with us on tonight. I want to echo what has already been communicated. The folks in this room are probably here because you care about this. This is not just an informational session for everyone here tonight. This is an activation session. And so what I want to echo is that we have a couple of months now to do some very big work together. JPEF has been proud to partner with Duval County Public Schools and the PAC on each of the referenda efforts that have gone before our community over the last couple of years. But it was a very tight margin last time, as we said throughout this evening. And if we don't do everything we can't succeed. And so I just want to make sure that we all take this part of the evening to heart. And I want to ask you all to think very seriously about the people you work with, the stakeholders you reach through your work, your family members, your neighbors, and how you can carry this information back to them. Because that's how we can all be a part of helping to ensure that this is successful. And so we have some specific calls to action on the screen. We recorded this conversation tonight, and you can count on us to continue to share this, but when you see it posted, please share it. So everyone else has the benefit of the answers to the questions and the information that's been presented tonight. As you see other information, the PAC has made in the past, and I know they're going to make again this time some great content that we can all cross-share on social media and just amplify that information to our networks. Because as David has already said, when it's a presidential election year, a lot more people come out to vote. People are going to come out to vote, and it's the percentage of people who kind of go down ballot and actually get to these important issues and who actually get to the nuance of what is the difference between this issue and the property tax conversation that's happening. And what I can tell you, just based on conversations that I'm having with community stakeholders, even some of your most informed leaders in our community don't fully understand the difference between the two. I have literally had lunch with business leaders that were conflating the two. So we have to make sure that we are elevating this in every conversation that we're having between now and November. Maybe not every conversation, but as many as you can. And we're going to keep doing this because We need the coalition of the willing, but we also need you to invite more people so they can deepen their understanding of this issue, and we can make sure that the people who do turn out to vote, that they vote yes on renewing the 1 mil. So I'm going to invite you to, there's lots of QR codes on the screen because we wanted to give you this information tonight. The next one of these forms is going to be on September 16th. And one of our calls to action is for you to think of 3 people who don't know enough about this, who need to know more, who you would ask to come and be a part of the next conversation. If they can't make it in September, we got them. We'll be back on October 15th. So there are going to be multiple opportunities to make sure this information gets out there. The PAC is producing some yard signs. We'll be working with everyone who we're connected to help get those out. And we want to make sure that everybody here can get their own yard sign to put in your yard. And so there's an opportunity here to sign up for that as well. But again, thank you all so much for being here tonight. It speaks volumes. It's easy for this to kind of get lost in the primary elections, and even the fact that there's a gubernatorial election. Sometimes people just vote for the governor's race, but they don't get to this. And we want to make sure that people vote, hopefully first, for the 1 mil. That's one of the messages we can push out to make sure that that vote actually happens. So thank you again. Please continue to do everything you can to get this information out there. And before you leave tonight, we do want to know sort of your feedback on this form, because as we keep bringing the community together to talk about this issue and using other strategies to help get the word out, we want to continue to improve in our ability to do so. So thank you again to all of our experts, and thank you again for everyone being here tonight. Have a good evening. But don't leave before you fill out your survey. Thank you.